Hi, good evening everyone. Kakantahin ba natin to?
Ow. Oh, lip-sync mo yan.
Actually, pwede kong kantahin.
Yes. Catchy, no?
Isabay. Oh, hi! Hi, everyone. Good evening. Kumusta tayo?
Hi muna tayo.
Yeah. Hi, Lance. And hi to the person behind Lance. Good evening. Hi, Alicia! Hey, Lizzie! Good evening.
Yes.
Good evening. Hey, Campy! Yes,
Got
thank you very much for being here. And Dalamaska 30, hey, good evening as well. Hi.
Hi, Alicia.
Ayan.
Thank you pala for Hungry Days for making ampon sa akin today.
Oh yeah, well,
Yeah,
thank
they
you
have
very
good
much,
food in Food
everyone.
Panda, so thank you, Hungry Dales.
Saan ka ba,
Ayan.
Lance?
Where are you?
I'm I'm in Hungry Dales right now.
Oh.
Kina Darren. Si Darren nasa likod ko.
Oh, hey Darren.
Okay, hey.
Good evening.
Oh,
Si
Hey.
Darren ba
hi.
yan? Narinig ba
And
kami ni
he's on the other side
Darren?
din. Huh?
Okay.
So good evening, everyone. Okay,
Oh, they're all here. Okinam is also here. Love it.
Kumusta naman kayo
Yes.
dyan?
Alright.
Appreciate you
Attendance
guys for
check.
being here.
Busy
Yeah.
attendance na game.
Pero siguro before we get started, can I just say, if you are joining us for the first time, I want you guys to know that we are not going to be watching the episode here. Again, this is an after show chat. So we've already seen the episode. So if you are expecting that we will be playing the video here, we won't be. So if you haven't seen it or watch it, go ahead and watch it first, and then you can come back to this video. If you're joining us again, hi, thank you again for being with us. And as you already know, Brouhaha B Squad, we all have our differences in opinions, our perspectives, our viewpoints. Of course, we're going to agree on some things, we're going to disagree on some things, we're going to look at things from different points of view, and you guys will as well. But what we do here is we appreciate all perspectives because it's a way for us to learn and to share at least a different insight into what we've seen. So thank you very much for being here. Please go ahead and share your thoughts in the chat, in the comments, and then we'll talk about what we felt about the episode.
Yes. Okay, so
by the way, siguro, again, for those who don't know us yet, my name is Mikey. And these guys are.
I'm Nico, and this is Lance over here. And
Yes, hi.
Mark
I'm Lance.
over there. Nahirapan ako sa orientation nitong nerd.
Naka-mirror eh.
So I see Romeo in the chat. Hi, bro.
Hey, bro.
Hey, bro.
Hey, bro. How's it going?
Hi, bro.
Hi, bro.
Thank you for being here, bro. And to Nate as well. I see you in the chat.
Ayan.
Hello.
Hi, Nate.
Yeah.
Oh, congratulations, Nate, that you're also in the credits up with the Brouhaha squad too.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for including us, Camp Avenue Studios. Thank you.
Yes.
Appreciate that. Hi, mga bro. Yes.
Darren.
Hello, bro. So, how are we gonna do this tonight, Nico?
Siguro, what we can do is we'll just sort of brief not brief talaga, ano to, meeting. Siguro we'd like to share our
alignment but
alignment meeting. Oo, Zoom meeting talaga to. Management meeting ng BBS. How do you call this? We will just share yung criteria na ginagamit natin, general criteria that we use whenever we do our reviews. So if you notice sa mga previous or most recent reviews namin, we've been talking about like certain elements, no? May mga keywords tayong ginagamit like mga plot device, mga ano yun, di ba? Mga gulat na lang sila. Ano to mga plot device na to? Of course, we do our research and this criteria that we will be sharing that's flashed there, This is on Twitter. It's been pinned on top dun sa page namin, no? This is actually our movie and series review guide, right? Nag-lecture bigla. Very quickly lang.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
Communication one.
Hey,
oh,
Mouse.
Communication 101. Hey,
Hi,
Mal. Hey, Diana.
Diana.
yay! Hey, hey, hey. Ay, mag-hi muna tayo sa kanila. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, team.
Yes, yes,
Hashtag room.
Hello.
yes.
Ano
Welcome to
hashtag ulit
Hello.
nila?
welcome to our TED Talk,
Ayan.
everyone.
Smirk daw, Lance, sabi ni,
Yes, Mark.
ni Miles. Ayan. So since Miles made mention of Smirk already, we're gonna talk about like how we do it in BBS. So this is like a general guide that we use, but we don't really stick to this. Hindi naman kami kasi ganun ka by the book. But like each of
Rigid.
us has, we're not that rigid, yes. But each of us has his or her own criteria, like personal criteria. For example, Lance has his Smirk. Mikey has his triple R's. Um, Mark would talk about themes and responsible depiction, right? Ako naman, I would go for acting. Ako, yun talaga yung parang pinaka-focus ko. The girls, Patty and Ange would also have their own focus. Normally sa production, sa music, OST. Maya would normally or usually synthesize or parang summarize yung parang kabuuan ng discussion, no? But all these things would fall under three areas, no? So we call it WAP, WAP. We started off with writing. Yan. So writing naman, you can just go through this very quickly. We talk about plot and story. Titignan namin kung maganda ba yung takbo ng kwento, masyado bang abrupt, masyado bang mabagal, okay ba yung resolution ng conflict. Yan. So you can just go through these very easy lang naman siya to remember. It can be a bit overwhelming, but you don't really have to stick to each of these elements in a very rigid manner, no? Aside from plot and story, we have dialogue. Titignan natin dyan yung use of language, emotions, so on and so forth. You can just go through this, right? Aside from writing, we also have acting. Ito na, papasok yung mga acting skills and chops ng mga actors natin, right? Delivery, gestures, yan, facial expression, body, and then movement. Ito yung pinaka-focus talaga natin, the one in the middle that says grip or yung timing. Di ba meron tayong mga actors na magaling maghawak ng emotions while delivering the lines or kahit walang linya, you can still sense the emotions, all right? And then may tamang pagbitaw din ng emotions. May iba naman, nagla-let go na ng emotions, hindi pa timing, no? So we also look into that, no? Right. And lastly, ito yung pinaka-fun part, at least for me, yung production naman. I'm a sucker for cinematography, sound, music. I think pasok na rin yung music ni Lance dito. Meron siyang, tama ba, music dun sa smirk mo, Lance?
Yes, meron. Meron.
Yan. And then design naman, appeal, basically yung aesthetics, no? In terms of accuracy, okay ba yung purposeful ba yung paglagay ng jar sa likod, paglagay ng mga sofa sa likod or what, no? And then symbols, may mga symbolic meanings ba yun? You can just go through this, but most of us, like all of us, have our own criteria of judging talaga or basically evaluating yung mga series, episodes, and films, right?
Uh-huh.
Hindi lang kami nagre-react lang based on emotions kasi iba yung reaction na parang, ay, ang ganda. Pero ang question is, bakit maganda? We have our basis. Kaya nga, di ba, sa mga most recent episodes natin, we have our criteria. We even ask some of our viewers and friends to come up with their own acronyms para they have their own criteria. Yan. Para may basis tayo.
Yes.
And this is actually a way for us to help our series, our Pinoy BLs, listen to us probably. Siguro kasi we're more objective and specific in our feedback, in our commentaries, so to say. Yon. Mikey.
Yes. Yeah. So with that, we can go ahead and get started with what we feel or what we thought about the first episode. So who would like to start? What do you think about it? By the way, you guys in the comments, you can also go ahead and tell us what you thought about it, initial impressions, so that we can go ahead and get the conversation going. Pero
Yeah.
if you guys, I could start.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So basically, this is the second time I'm seeing it actually because I've already seen it in
Yes.
the advanced screening.
Yeah,
And we've
same.
also spoken to the cast and also to the director regarding the first episode. So I pretty much know already how it was gonna go, and this was sort of like a reviewing for me, right?
Mhm.
So I guess I'm just gonna start off with what I said in the conversation with the cast and the crew. Is that I like that this is a social political BL, if it
Right.
can be called that, right? Because
Right.
there were a few issues that were tackled, which I think are
Mm-hmm.
very, very important, especially for the LGBTQIA community, and
Right.
also for the for society in general as well. So the first was basically cancel culture, diba? So
Mm-hmm.
with the cancel culture theme here, basically we have these two characters who are centered around that culture, and that
Mm-hmm.
would be Migo and Ram, the two
Right.
leads, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in
Mm-hmm.
Migo's case, he believed that it was too early to use the hashtag cancel Ram
Mm-hmm.
um, hashtag because he said he felt that there was no evidence yet, right? But then again, he was also quick to point out that even though there is no evidence, people are easily duped or they easily
Mm-hmm.
believe these things
Mm-hmm.
because for them it's sort of like clout, right? So people jump on the bandwagon so that they
Right.
can be included or that they can ride the wave and then gain that popularity or be noticed as well, right? So that's
Mm-hmm.
basically what he was pointing out, and it is very true, especially these days when people are so quick to judge, so quick to, let's say, come to conclusions without even corroborating if it is fact or if it is an assumption or opinion, diba?
Mm-hmm.
So the other side of the coin is Ram, wherein he was the one on the receiving end of it. Apparently, there was someone who was spreading rumors about him because that person got ditched.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Diba? So we can understand that someone might feel offended if they are rejected, but there
Right.
is a way of handling that rejection. You do
Mm-hmm.
not spread rumors or lies about a person. And that's exactly
Mm-hmm.
what happened to Ram. Because he
Right.
rejected this person, Perez Hil sorry, Perez
Hidalgo.
Hidalgo.
Pero, oopsie.
Perez Hidalgo spread rumors that Ram was bottom shaming, right? So Brown, of course, addressed that in his letter. Basically, he said that with cancel culture, it is very stressful and it is some form of torture, especially for the
Mm-hmm.
person who is on the receiving end, and especially if they are innocent. Siyempre, di ba? I mean, if you are innocent, if you didn't do anything wrong, and then suddenly people are canceling you, even by people you don't know, then of course that's gonna take a toll on you. That's gonna take an emotional now
Yeah.
maybe that's going to take an emotional toll on you and it may affect how you feel about yourself and how you think, right? So it is
Mm-hmm.
something that can be very stressful and can affect your mental state and emotional state as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
So um, the second thing is really the bottom shaming thing, diba?
Right.
So basically he was accused of shaming bottoms when in fact he didn't, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I like that he addressed that bit in his open letter by saying that why do we need to limit people to labels? Why do we need to
Mm-hmm.
limit people to what they can do in the bedroom? I
Mm-hmm.
mean, you can play a role in the bedroom, but that doesn't necessarily mean that that's who you are. It's not the sum and end all of your being, right? Because outside
Mm-hmm.
of the bedroom or outside of your sexual adventures, you're a professional, you're a brother, you're a dad, you're a son, right? Or
Mm-hmm.
you are a volunteer, you're a firefighter. So there are so many things, so many other things that can define who you are. But the way that we are sort of like labeling people to be that and only that is
Mm-hmm.
something that we need to correct and
Mm-hmm.
something that has to be changed as well, diba? So those are two things. I know there's a couple of other things.
Yeah.
Would you like me to go on, or would you guys want to say something about it? Go
Yeah, I
ahead.
have a question lang though. Kasi if you remember with the use of the hashtag cancel ram, even if Migo had good intentions using it, it reminded me of the way we were trying to reshape on No to Soji Bill, No to
Mhm.
Soji Equality Bill on Twitter, wherein we were speaking na don't use that hashtag instead if you're
Right.
pro Soji. So
Right.
we twisted it around to saying yes to Soji Bill instead. So I was wondering,
Mm,
maybe Migo
right.
brought more fire using the wrong hashtag.
Mm-mm,
Maybe as an
Exactly.
mm-mm.
influencer, he could have changed the hashtag
Good
instead.
point. Good point.
Exactly. Exactly.
Mm-mm.
So by using it, you actually add fuel to the fire, basically, right? You're basically
Yes.
making it trend. So by
Yes, like what
changing
happened
it,
to No Soji Bill. The same thing happened. Although it's a mix of positive and negatives, but it appeared it's like No Soji Bill itself. Yes,
Yes,
hi
Leon.
Leon.
Kamusta
May
ka, chika?
nakikichika talaga sa atin.
Yes. So, yun nga, parang, those are a couple of things, but then there are two other things that I want to talk about a little bit more. What do you guys think about that? What can you say about that?
Ako naman, I think Lance did ask me nung Thursday parang what's your overall insight or what was your biggest takeaway from the series or the episode rather. It's a vocal, straightforward series. Parang wala, it doesn't beat around the bush, right? It tells outright that hey, it's bottom shaming, it's cancel culture, so on and so forth. So it's a brave series for me because I don't think meron tayong nakitang ganun na series before. Like what we saw were series that were kind of like that needed belaboring pa or a bit of discourse. Like
Yeah.
ito kasi parang you can hear it from the characters themselves that hey, it's cancel culture, right? It's bottom shaming. So yeah, it's a vocal, straightforward series. Yun yung gusto kong masabi about the series. It's a good thing. It's a good thing.
Right, right, right. And I think Mark also mentioned in one of our in our chat that
Yeah.
this is a topic that's not necessarily tackled by other DLs, diba? You
Yes.
mentioned
Yeah.
that, Mark.
Yes, yeah.
True.
So
True.
that's pretty good that that's happening right now. And I think that's one of the main goals of this studio of this group, right?
Mm-hmm.
Basically, and I think Miles has also mentioned it before. And Miles, if you can put the exact wording in the chat, that would be great. Basically, once you watch the series and once you watch the show, then what is going to be your action? What
Mm-mm.
is going to be
Right.
your advocacy, right? Because there's a lot
Mm-mm.
of advocacy in this series. So, what are you going to do about it? That's basically what
Yeah.
it is, right?
True.
Yeah.
True.
Yes. By the way, Leon's outfit is the outfit that he was using in the first episode.
Yes,
You know that?
Yes.
and the profile
O, 'di
picture.
ba? Gusto ko
Yeah.
'yan.
Diba?
Giggle ka?
Attention to detail.
Oo. Feeling ko sa
Yeah.
next episode magpapalit ng profile photo 'yan.
Pwede rin
'Di ba?
naman. Pwede rin
Consistency
Same
is
naman.
jacket,
key.
but the shirt was white in the first episode.
Oh, okay.
When he removed the jacket, it was a
Yeah.
white shirt. Yes, yes. And I'm wearing
Yes.
white because, white is all over the place in this episode. Everybody was wearing
Yes.
white. Ayun.
True.
Um, okay. Siguro I
Ayun
want to
pala,
also go
Ayun
ahead.
pala, Michael, super quick lang talaga. So, yun nga parang there are other series nga na parang, ano ba, they try to be so symbolic. I will not make mention kung anong series. So, there are some series who try to depict some images of issues in society in a very symbolic manner na no, very metaphorical that you don't even get the point of all these elements in the series, right? Itong influencers kasi it
Mhm.
tells you outright like automatically, hey, it's bottom shaming, it's cancel culture.
Yeah.
You get it outright. And then they
Yeah.
play out uh these issues through the characters, through acting, through interaction. So, na-appreciate ko. Kasi like other series would say, hey, this is what we're depicting, but hindi naintindihan ng regular or average na
Mhm.
consumer like me, like us, 'di ba? Na nanonood talaga. So, I think kudos to the series na they're brave and really straightforward in really presenting these issues. Yon.
Yes. Patawain mo na, bro.
Ano, Lance, ako. Joke lang.
Wala.
Either of you guys.
De, well, for me, just like what Mikey mentioned earlier, no, na-mention ko sa group chat ng BBS na I really appreciate this series, this production. Not only this series, I mean, feeling ko kasi
Mm.
I get the whole picture. Di naman whole kasi one episode pa lang siya. Pero I get this parang tinge of the picture na the backbone of #influencers the series is parang depicted from the backbone of Camp Avenue Studio. So
Mm.
I
Yes.
see that the series is in very good hands in terms of how they will discuss these issues. Because just like how I repeatedly mention every single time on how hope and I always see these series that we review, these shows that we review.
Uh-huh.
I always put them on the hot seat of whether they are responsible or not. Diba? So I've always repeated that na that's what I'm looking for in a series to make it a good series in my perspective and in my point of view, that it should be responsible. So I think with what Camp Avenue Studios is doing for hashtag influencers the series, I'm confident that it will not waver out of that line na magiging irresponsible. Kasi may mga series I would
Yeah.
not mention na it's responsible at first. Pero kasi while watching it, medyo nagkakaroon ng hindi nag-align in terms of how they presented the series in the first time around. So
Yeah.
I'm very confident on how Camp Avenue Studios will really do a good job in terms of addressing these issues head on. Yun nga, sabi nga ni Nico earlier, no? Kasi there are metaphors na um, while, sige, I'll mention GSP again, just like fresh from last
Yeah.
night, no?
Yeah.
GSP has so many metaphors.
A
Ang
lot.
daming metaphors ng GSP, ang daming metaphors ng even the Thai BLs, the Korean BLs, the Chinese BLs, puro sila metaphors eh. Pero kasi
Right.
if you're an average consumer, parang I don't wanna I don't wanna buhat naman my own bangko. Pero feeling ko I understood GSP because of the metaphors. So partly it's because of the good production of GSP and partly because of my, for the lack of a better term, wide knowledge in terms of how I understood these metaphors. With hashtag influencers, the series kasi, parang um, the production is ready to extend that much like length of the arm to really make the viewers understand fully head on what the series means to say. Kasi for you to go direct that way, sometimes, for example, when we coin the term bottom shaming,
Right.
it's an issue. It's a
Yeah.
relevant thing. It's a relevant discussion that we need to really talk about in in a personal and like in a normal level, in a conversational level. Pero there are some things na when you say these mouthful new terminologies and introduce them in a series or in and integrate them in a story, sometimes these words parang they get highlighted, sometimes negatively, sometimes positively.
Agree.
Sometimes these words um do not go well with how the delivery of the lines are, do not go well with the script. Because there are levels of languages, just like what we mentioned earlier, no, and when we are discussing WAP, no, there are levels of languages on how you will, which language you will use, no, which facet of the language you will use para ma-convey mo coherently
Yes.
yung message na gusto mong i-put across. So with
Right.
Pietro, hello.
Ayan,
Nakita ko kasi
Pietro!
it's good to
Yan, we
finally
like
see
BL.
you.
Yes!
Ayun. So parang Camp Avenue Studios did a good job for this episode na while there are terms that are really like vocabulary terminologies and for the lack of I don't know how to explain this. Pero when they
Verbiage.
introduce these terms such as bottom shaming, cancel culture, for the average viewer, it would need some form of explanation.
Right.
Kasi there would be like there are some series na when they introduce these like scholastic terms no na it would need some like a disclaimer to explain it. Pero with with this episode no, at least for episode 1, nakita natin on how magandang na ipasok in these terms kasi yun yung tinitingnan ko while watching and parang will these be highfalutin words na magiging too distant from the rest of the dialogue, from the rest of the script. Pero with from what I've seen, at least personally, from what I've seen, they did a good job in integrating these highfalutin words into the script. And just in turn, mas naintindihan natin ng average na
Right.
manonood kung ano ang gusto nilang iparating. Kasi unang-una, walang palabok, walang bulaklak, straight head on because they are tackling these issues directly. I mean, tinatakal nila yung issues ng kailangan nilang iparating sa mga tao kasi when you use metaphors, although metaphors are beautiful,
Yeah.
but there are
Can go over
instances
your
kasi na
head.
these metaphors, yeah, it can go over your head, sabi nga ni Mikey. For I cannot think of a better term on how to
Mhm.
explain it further. Yun naman. Another point would be while watching Influencers the series is um kasi nakikita natin with the post, ako personally, since somehow I kind of handle our social media, no, for Brouhaha
Yeah.
Squad. So if the members of the Camp Avenue Studios, minsan ako po yung kausap niya, minsan si Mikey, minsan si Lance. So yeah, so with how I see
Yeah.
the socials of Camp Avenue Studios, even with the recently, I think 2 days ago, no, when they first premiered, na nagkaroon ng slight technical issue.
Yeah.
Tama, di ba?
Yes,
Nagkaroon ng
yes.
konting technical issue in terms of airing. So parang I really commend the production itself na
Yes.
how they
Yes.
handled that really
Yes.
stressful
Yeah.
Here.
instance. Parang it's really a stressful incident. So parang kudos to them on how they handled that
Mhm.
situation 2 days ago.
Yeah.
So while I am talking to them over social and reading their posts and tweets, no,
Yes.
I'm I'm very I'm very happy on how grounded the production
Yes.
house is. Hindi siya distant kasi may mga BL shows na, although it's very good, pero may mga BL shows na parang it's so up there na you cannot even. Okay, gets you na.
So elitist.
Okay.
Diba? Charlotte.
Oh my God, parang okay, sige, I keep my mouth shut on how. Pero hindi, I cannot keep my mouth shut. Pero kasi they are so up there na parang,
Somewhere.
uy, ano ba? Okay, gets
Somewhere.
naman that you have a wider reach and you have a wider following and maybe you cannot really um go through each and every post na, no? So I really understand that. Pero wala lang. I don't know if it's just if it's just me talking yung makapal na mukhang fan talking. But
Why kasi
some
why?
yeah, I just want sometimes lang na parang although I know that they listen, I just want uh some productions to to let us know that they listen. Kasi with
Yeah.
Camp Avenue Studios, we know that they do. I mean,
Yes, yes,
even
yes,
that,
yes, yes.
di ba? Like when we did our interview with the two lead actors, no, just like a week ago or like it's just a
Mhm.
short time. Tapos parang they made this parang community. They included us in their community
Yes.
through putting our Brouhaha B Squad name sa kanilang end credits. So parang oh, it's so touching. It's so we appreciate it so much na parang you took the time to really sa haba ng pangalan ng group namin, nilagay niyo siya doon. So parang thank you so much.
Yeah.
Diba? So parang nakikita ko yung comment ng Camp Avenue Studios na I call shade but spill
Spill
the
the
tea.
tea.
I
No,
spent
that's
a little
okay.
already.
That's okay. Yeah.
Maybe in the tea party we may spill some
Okay.
shade. Let's see.
Oh, diba? Sobrang down there. Wala lang. Natutuwa ako na nandito sila. So,
Yeah.
Yeah,
wala lang.
yeah.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
you know, I mean, we have to admit that I mean it's not a perfect production. It's not a perfect
Yes.
episode. I mean, there are
Mhm.
some things that can still be improved, and that was mentioned as well in the tea party that we had
Cool.
with
Yeah.
Camp Avenue Studios. So they acknowledge it. They know. I mean, there are some things in terms of acting and other things, but of course, I for one feel that that's a pass as long as
Right.
the content and the message
Yeah.
is really really relevant. So yun na naman. So I for one I'm okay with it. Hopefully it improves in the upcoming episodes, but I'm
Oo
also
naman.
very very interested in how they will introduce other issues and how they will address it. One other issue that was raised in this episode was the coming out issue. I mean, we've talked about it in other lives as well. Some people feel or need to come out to their families and to their friends, but there are other people who might feel that they don't really need to come out because
Yeah.
I don't need to explain anything. I'm okay with the situation, and whatever you think is whatever you think, right? But in this case, it was sort of like a reverse outing, or not a reverse outing, I don't know, but it was a forced coming out, right?
Yeah.
So it was basically someone who was spreading lies and rumors, and of course, Ram, who was the one victimized or affected by it, he had to take action for it, diba? And I think one of the reasons why he was forced to come out the way that he did was because he was triggered by Migo, diba? So Migo was like, hey, you want to talk about it? I mean, I can ask you some questions, you know. And then when Ram found out that he was an influencer as well, or he was on social media, then he felt that,
Mhm.
okay, so you're just using me for a story. Wow.
Right.
Maybe I'm
Yeah.
going through something that I haven't gone through before, something that's very painful or something very stressful, and yet you want to use it as your content. Like,
Mhm.
wow, right? So I think that's why he did it in that way. So he posted something, and that's where he addressed the issue of bottom shaming and the issue
Right.
of cancel culture. So
Cancel culture.
I really felt for Ram's character here because, syempre, di ba, parang siya yung victim eh. Parang we always feel for
Mhm.
the victim, especially since he is very innocent in this case. He didn't do bottom shaming. He just rejected
Mhm.
someone, and by virtue of that rejection, someone felt that they needed to spread rumors about him para
Mhm.
mapahiya siya.
Right.
Ayan. So, what I liked about what happened was when he did decide to come out with it, and he was asked by his friend, "Are you gay?"
Mhm.
He was like, "Yes." And then the famous line, "Shoota ka." Shoota, shoota,
Shutaka.
shoota, shoota, shoota ka.
Yes.
Tama.
Hi, Mans.
Hi, Maz. Hi, Maz.
Thank you for that
Kinakaya lang.
iconic line.
I'm sorry. I can't, hindi kita magaya eh. I can't really say it the way that you said it, but I think it was
Yeah,
like,
it was close enough.
Shutaka.
Yung
It was
sabi
close
niya.
enough.
Yes, with conviction. I love it. And so he admitted to her, to the friend, because I think he felt safe with her as well. And
Mhm.
then
Mm.
when he admitted it and posted it, his family found out, and his mom and dad sent him a message saying, "Yay, my son is out. My son is finally admitting to the
Mm.
world, and we love you just the same."
Oh,
So I really like that
sana
about the
all.
episode. Sana
Yeah,
all.
sana
When I
all.
was in the live chat, I was even saying, I wish all parents were like that. I wish moms were
Mm.
like that. I wish dads were like
Mm.
that. Right? I mean,
Mm.
of course, there are a lot of parents out there who are like that. But the thing is, when you are in that space, when you're in that closet, right, you don't know for sure how they're going to react. But for the parents, they already know, right? But then for someone who feels that they need to hide, or for someone who feels like if they reveal themselves that they might be rejected by the people that they love,
Mhm.
of
Mhm.
course it's something to be afraid of, right? It's something to really really think about. And we talked about this in our other sessions as well, that we have to be practical about things, that if we do decide to reveal ourselves to our families and such, we have to have a backup plan. And that's the sad reality, diba? And we've seen
Yeah.
it depicted even in GSP. Like Vlad told Ian, Vlad told Carl, it's not your fault. It's not your fault that you want to stay in the closet, that you need to take your time, because society is dictating, or society is making us fearful about revealing ourselves to other people. So I mean, that's why we have to be practical. We have to really think about things, and we have to be really careful. Once we do decide to take that leap, we have to be really, really sure that we are
Mhm.
emotionally, financially, physically, mentally ready to do so. Otherwise, if something happens and we're not ready, then we don't know what's going to happen. And we don't want
Mhm.
that to be the case,
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's going back to Maki, the piggybacking on the
Piggyback.
backbone on Camp Avenue. I think when you were in the Tea Party, they were mentioning that they had to go back to their roots when they created
Mm.
the influencers. So that's good
Okay.
that Maki saw that, or most of them saw that too, that their roots are ingrained in the series itself. Pero
Hmm.
yeah, for me, I'll go in another perspective since you mentioned every perspective I could think of already. So I'm going to twist it in a little bit.
Mhm.
Now, I saw this episode just like giving birth to something new. Because when you give
Mm.
birth, you start with a sunrise. You hear the heartbeat as you walk down the beach with a clean
Yes.
slate. They were all
Sena.
wearing white. And
Ah,
you start with the intro, be courage, have courage, and be kind. Then the world
yeah.
comes in. Society comes in. You get an external factor in your damn
Mm.
space, which would
Right.
be Leon, cancel culture, bottom shaming, and all that, all the other issues, the uncertainties that we all get. And at the end of the episode, you go back to who are the people who would receive you once you gave birth, are out in the world. You would be falling back to your parents, your supportive parents saying that we love you. And it all
Mm.
happened on the sunset. At the end of the day, it's still them who's supporting you. So that's the perspective I saw in the whole thing, especially that if you go back on the first scene, you'd hear that heartbeat. It really felt like you're giving birth to something new.
Mm-mm.
So yun lang. That's a
Right.
different take from all what you've said. So, because I think if we go, I don't want to sound redundant with the cancel culture, because you mentioned everything else. So
Same.
it's
Yep.
an artistic view of all that.
Right. Wait, I want to piggyback on what Lance said because
Like
I'd like
that.
to jump. I'd like to jump directly to production, naman. I
Mhm.
super like the cinematography. Like everything
Yes.
to me at least made sense. No,
Yes.
yung mga aerial shots, right? Yung na-mention ni Lance na parang nasa dagat, nasa coastline and all. No, parang to me kasi the title of the episode is Damn Space, right? And to me,
Yes.
the production, I mean the cinematography, yung continuity ng mga shots made sense to me na, oh nga no, damn space, yeah. It gave me that feel that, this character is really going through something right now. And to me, parang effective yung transitions, I guess, from my perspective, no. So natuwa naman ako dun sa cinematography part. Yes. Yun lang.
Yeah. Actually, yung first scene with the overhead shot of the waves lapping on the shore, it sort of gave
Yeah.
me like Hillsong feels because I know
Ah,
Yes.
there's a song I don't remember which one. Maybe it's Oceans or maybe it's City Point Live, but
mm-mm.
it sort of like gave me that feeling. No? And if you think about it, diba, parang the water, I mean the sea is always well usually very calm, but it can be very dangerous as well, especially if you're in too deep. And I think that's what happens, diba, in real life, diba? Parang on the surface, you might think that someone is okay, but then inside they might be going through some really, really dark and deep
Yeah.
turmoil, diba? So you never
Yeah.
know exactly what the person is going through. You can only see the surface. So it's very important, just like Ram said, to be kind to people, right?
Yes.
Because I mean, that's really what it is, eh, di ba? Parang this entire episode, we had people making assumptions. I mean, throwing lies out there,
Mhm.
making up stories about people, canceling people, and then shaming people for their sexual roles in the bedroom.
Mm-mm,
If
mm-mm.
we just take the time to get to know a person, we will understand who they are better than, just relying on what other people tell you about that person, diba? And also, if we are kind to each other, I think this world is going to be, I don't think, I know this world is going to be a better place, diba? If we're kind to strangers, yeah, if we're kind to strangers, if we're kind to people that we know, if we're kind to other members of the community,
Yep.
diba? Then, I mean, we would be all the better for it. So I think that was the overarching theme of this episode as well. That really kindness can go a long, long way towards making
Yeah.
people better and making a better world.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, right. And also, I want to add to actually what Mal said down dyan sa baba, no?
Yeah.
Regarding the parent scene, kasi I was actually kind of surprised na nung text ba yun o messenger, basta nung nag-message yung parents ni Ram sa kanya na tinatanggap siya ng nanay niya at ng tatay niya, I was kind of shocked kasi first and foremost, it's a new thing for a BL series to go that route. Kasi at least ako personally, I think at least for now, I can take away in the equation na wala dito yung toxic parent kind of niche ng
Yeah.
isang BL story. So parang at least natanggal ako sa pananaw ko in my perspective, hindi tayo pupunta doon sa ganong diskurso again and again and again and again. So parang it's a refreshing scene, it's a refreshing take on how to incorporate parents into the BL series. Kasi well, Ram and as a character, Ram is still young, di ba? So parang kapag naman hindi mo pinakita yung parent, parang wala ba siyang magulang? Parang, I mean, it lacks reality if ever hindi matatackle yung parents side, the
Yeah.
perspective of the parents to come into play with with the story of Ram because he is young. I mean, he lives with his parents, I suppose. So parang
Mm.
um the series or at least this episode addresses that issue. Hindi naman siya actually issue eh. Na hindi siya parang the episode addresses that facet of the story where Ram is already accepted by his both of his both mom and dad. So parang
Yeah.
natanggal agad yung cliche na
Mm.
usual na natin nakikita sa BL. So I'm really excited on how they will, kasi parang tinanggal nila yung cliche. So it opens
Right.
another door of limitless possibilities on how they will incorporate the parents of Ram into the story, on how how supportive will they be, parang magkakaroon ba ng limit yung support, parang kasi may mga ganun may mga ganung parents, especially in the
Tama.
Philippines,
Mm.
like
Mm-mm.
they would like if ever they have a child who's a part or a member of the LGBTQIA plus community,
Mm-mm.
sometimes they would be accepting. Sometimes they wouldn't even talk about it, but they will not parang some parents naman would not parang make their child like go out of the streets, live on the streets. Parang
Mm-mm.
hopefully wala namang ganun, no? Pero
Mm-mm.
meron kasi may realidad pa rin na merong mga magulang na somehow hindi tanggap fully. So I'm really looking forward to that angle of the story, kung paano may incorporate yung parents ni Ram sa
Mm-mm.
kanyang self-discovery, sa kanyang um sa
Mm.
pag-share ni Ram na sarili niya sa ibang characters, especially nga kay Migo, no? Kasi syempre BL to. So kay Migo papunta ang lahat ng atensyon. So
Yes.
ikaw na,
Yeah.
Migo.
Pero, pero Mark,
Pero
Lizzie is sort of agreeing with you. Oh, you can read
Mm-mm.
her comment. Ayan, no. Pak.
Pa.
yeah, according to Madam Lizzie, I love the
Which
parent scene.
one?
Will not all parents can be like them, but maybe one day in reality, parents can be like them when their son or daughters come out. So
Mm-mm.
actually, to add to that, I think I can relate to that to my story because my parents weren't really accepting. I haven't told my dad yet, but I told my mom. But I think the most iconic line I got from my mother was she did accept me at first, but she asked
Mm.
me to give her time on accepting the fact that I'm gonna be having a relationship with a guy.
Mm.
So she needed more time regarding that because she needed time to process this is the relationship that my son is getting into. So I have to be ready on certain stuff. So I could still feel that my mom is still protective of me with some certain things. So it takes time, and I could see that throughout the years, the walls kept sliding down until I brought Pietro at home one time, and she said after in one dinner, so if the pandemic didn't happen, I would have expected Pietro coming in this house sooner or later and even more, which I didn't really think that that would ever happen
Mm-mm.
when I came out. Kasi when I told her during that time, parang feeling ko I didn't want to see any guy in this house. But I think my sister gave me perspective saying it would seem unfair because parang condoning that kind of love for my son would be unfair. It just takes time. That's all I could say. It would take time. Kumbaga, if in the other series like Vlad and Carl had their own time, parents do need that same time. They also follow their own pace.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm curious to see what pace would Ram's parent be if there's going to be another layer to the acceptance. Is this just a front, or will
Mm-hmm.
there be a deeper acceptance shown in the series?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Definitely. By the way, if I can just share, um, McCoy Koi in the chat. You all know McCoy
Yes,
Koi. He just
yes.
recently tweeted that he just came out to his parents.
Oh, yes. We
you know how
celebrate
he, you
that.
know how he loves GSP, and GSP inspired him to come out to his parents.
Oh, see? Yeah.
And they, just like Ram, they accepted him. It was like, okay, and as long as you don't put us in a nursing home and you take care of us still, you're fine. Or something like
Yes.
that. So, Makoy ko,
Oh,
yay! Malaya ka
hugs
na.
from BBS. Yes.
Kita
Yes.
kits sa labas. Char.
Yes.
Yes.
Referencing from
Love
the
you,
other series.
Makoy. Love you, love you, love you, love you.
Yeah, and
Um,
yeah,
yes,
parang it would be nice to see that influence would also. I'm hoping that you could see that same influence and impact for this series too. That would
Mm-mm.
see people start moving after they watch an episode, after they watch the series, and
right,
eventually the
right,
future BLs could be that. It will become just not just a romance story, but a statement as well. Hopefully.
right, right,
Right,
right.
right.
And I hope that I hope that, and I think this series is going to be tackling mental health as well because if you notice,
Yes.
the damn kids icon for their group
Yes,
is a
Psycho.
semicolon, and
yes.
then
Yeah.
Ram also has a frame behind him on top of his bed that is also a
Mm-mm.
semicolon. And for those unfamiliar, basically a semicolon, it's more often than not a tattoo that is used by people who want to express solidarity or affirmation in term with those who are afflicted by or those who have depression or any other mental health issues. So
Mhm.
I think we're going to be tackling that as well. And I think in one of our lives with Leon, I think he mentioned that at one point that
Yes.
one of the topics would be
Yeah.
mental health. So
And
I
it's
think
also his
that's going to be
advocacy.
good too.
I think it's his advocacy too, that he's
Yes,
taking up psychology. So
yes,
let's
that's right.
Yeah.
So Leon, we're looking forward to that.
Or baka
yes.
may
By the way,
baka may nagtatanong, bakit daw semicolon? Ba? Fun fact, 'di
ah,
ba, whenever you like write sentences or clauses, right?
yeah,
Semicolons would mean continuity of another idea, right? So
right.
Yeah.
if you relate that to mental
Not
health,
the end.
it's not a period, it's a semicolon, right? So
Mhm.
there's continuity, there's afterlife. Kaya siya
Yeah.
semicolon. Baka iniisip ng iba
Yeah.
wala lang yan. Makalagay lang ng ano, ng lawit. No, it's not like that. No. So may ibig
Uh-uh.
Makalagay lang
sabihin.
ng konting emoji icon na kunwari.
Yes, yes.
Right.
It's purposeful kasi
Mm-mm.
semicolons are parang when we use it in a sentence, no, it is generally used when you already have your complete thought, but you want to
Yes.
continue forward. You want to say more. You want to say something more. Pero
Mm-mm.
first and
Yeah.
foremost, your clause, your own self is already independent. Eh. So
Right.
nagiging English 101. Pero your clause is already independent. So when you put a semicolon
Correct.
there, you're already your
Yes.
whole self. There's nothing broken about you.
True.
You're not there is no missing piece in the puzzle that you are trying to
Mm-mm.
solve yourself. So you just
Mm.
have to move on and life goes on. So
Yeah.
I think for me, that's how I understand the semicolon.
Yes,
Mm-mm.
nabasahin
Right.
ko rin yung sinasabi ni Sir Will, hi Teacher Will, na semicolons represent a sentence that the writer could have ended but chose not to. So
Yes,
the writer,
absolutely.
the writers are us.
Yes.
Correct. So there is
Yes.
more to life,
Yes.
basically.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Yes. And I think Nolan posted it as well as the semicolon. Yeah.
Yes.
Um Also, I want to draw attention, I guess, to the opening and the ending lines about that
Mm-mm.
Okay.
damn space. So I think the writer is a fan of was it Charles Bukowski?
Mm.
Someone Bukowski, right? And then basically the lines are about kasi 'di ba the opening sequence is about uncertainty, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that was the main thing. So saying that many times in our lives we encounter uncertainties and then parang it's a void that you want to fill. You do a lot of things to be able to fill that void, right? Um and then we wait and we wait and we wait for that void to be filled, but somehow it doesn't get filled up, right? But then at the end of it, he's Ram said something that there is now something that's sort of like invading that damn space. And I think it's because he's saying that with Migo's entry, that there is someone who may be causing a stir within his being. So maybe this is something that can sort of like, what do you call that? Shake his existence or something. So I don't know if
Yes.
Shaker's
that's
new.
I don't know if that's really what it means, but then there were
Mm.
a lot of uncertainties in that episode as well, and was also mentioned in our tea party. Right? Number one, the uncertainty of facts, of sort of like the bottom shaming thing, right?
Yes.
It was uncertain because there was no evidence, right? And we don't know exactly what it is. And then maybe Ram's uncertainty about his coming out to other people, right? And also see Leon. And I
Migo.
also, Migo, so yeah. I also want to know more about that because when he came to La Union, his sister, Farah, half sister, Farah was there. And then Cheska was there, or Cheche. And then they were supposed to leave. And then Migo is supposed to take care of the
Resort.
resort. Yeah. So it's also uncertain what's going to happen there because he's not a restaurateur or a resort owner.
Yes.
He's an influencer. So I don't know what's going to happen there, but I'm also interested in finding that out. Right. Um, and also, I guess uncertainty for Ram. What will happen to him? I mean, he's an
After.
influencer. What will happen to his base? What will happen to his fandom? Right? I mean, what will happen to his relationships with other people? So I think that's where it is, right? So I think it was neatly tied up, diba?
Mm-mm.
Mhm.
Went full circle. And
Yes.
I'm excited to see how they're gonna open it up again for other challenges or issues. There. Yon. Woo!
Nakapaisip ako.
So it's actually a lot to process, right?
I know it
I
is,
mean,
it is, it
Mm-hmm.
is, it is. And at
I mean,
least, oh, yun nga, parang I appreciate nga talaga, it's not too highfalutin as Maki was saying, na it's not too metaphorical, it's straightforward. Although there are some terms that you need to research in, and I
Mm-mm.
appreciate that the cast themselves are educating the people around them about these terminologies. And to quote one of the cast members, si Romeo, I think he said that the only thing constant in this world is change. So
yeah,
we all have this change, which results in uncertainties. But the question is, how will you deal with the change afterwards?
yeah,
Right.
right,
That's the call to action.
Yes.
Yes.
absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think also one of the other calls to action here is, I mean, we talked about um, cancel culture and bottom shaming. So this is specifically in the community, diba? So, um, kasi diba, parang yesterday, GSP told us that when you're ready to come out, when you're ready to fight,
Hmm.
we will be welcoming you. We're out here welcoming you. But then before we can actually do that, we actually have to work within the community first. Because how
Mhm.
can we take the
Yes.
fight outside if we ourselves are fighting inside the community?
Yes.
Diba? So I think it's very important that we fix this community more than we take the fight outside to the heads and whatever. Diba? Because if we are not accepting of ourselves, how then can we
Right.
expect other people to be accepting of us? Kasi tayo-tayo nagbo-bottom shame. Tayo-tayo nagta-trans shame, di ba? So parang
Mhm.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes.
uh,
Mhm.
Yes. Yes.
how can we then expect other people to treat us the way that we want to be treated if we are not treating each other in that way? You know? So I'm like, okay. So I think that is another call to action that
Yes.
we
Yeah.
build the community, we fix the community before
Mhm.
or before we focus on that other fight, which is taking it
Yeah.
outside. Yeah.
Yeah, and I
Mhm.
think there was
Although,
one thing I read up with what one of the tweets ni Camp Avenue. Let me look for that because they were trying to say that I think,
Si Pietro
yeah,
nag-hi talaga sa likod mo.
okay.
Hi, Pedro.
Hi,
Gusto ko
Pietro.
yun.
Hi, mahal. No, lad, that's
Yeah.
Pietro.
Oh, hey. Hi. And the cat. Hi, cat. Oh my God, it's so
Yeah,
cute.
it's Ken and the cat.
I'm a cat person, so hi. That's
Yeah,
fine.
yeah. According to Cam Avenues in their tweet, you got this right. The process of coming out. This may be short, but it's a powerful one. So, parang no matter how many voices, no matter how small they are, we have people around us who would amplify those small voices. So we want
Mm.
everyone to come
yeah.
out, scream, and eventually all of us will be heard. So I think that was one of their messages in one of their tweets, if I remember correctly.
Right.
Then
Mhm.
Well, since you mentioned that, I also want to highlight yung kay Cholo because Cholo, if you're here, Cholo,
hi
kudos to
Cholo, if
you.
you're here. Cholisha also is in
Um,
the house.
well, well, never mind.
Yeah.
Alicia, yes, we support you, but there are other ships as well.
Yes.
You have a fight. You have a fight, Alicia.
Good luck.
But that's a separate issue. That's a separate issue. See, here we go again. Fighting
Yeah.
within the community. So, anyways, Chala posted here. I found it. So, the fear of getting exposed for being part of the LGBTQ community is really unexplainable. No one belongs in the closet. But if
Mhm.
you feel you're safer inside, I'll be right here guarding. To those who were outed and were forced to, I love you. Mahigpit na yakap. So that was the first
Oh,
tweet. And then
Yeah.
That's so
Cholo.
yeah.
he
That's so
added another tweet to that.
beautiful.
I know. And then he added another tweet to that. And this is in Tagalog. I'll try to translate it for
Go.
the international community.
In Chabacano.
Oh my God, I'll try Bicol as well.
Spanish.
But in Tagalog, said, he said, pati na rin sa mga hindi tanggap sa kanilang mga tahanan, andito ako, pati na ang ibang tao. May pamilya ditong handang tanggapin kayo ng buong buo.
Yes.
Never be
Oh.
sorry for your existence. You are
Yes.
all beautiful. I'm grateful to have an opportunity to say this to everyone. Padayon. Yan.
Padayon. Yes.
So,
Continue.
Padayon.
Padayon
so
means
I'll
Miss you
translate
word
the
din yun.
Tagalog part. I'll translate the Tagalog part as best as I can. And to those who are not accepted in their homes, I am here along with other people.
Mhm.
There's a family here who is ready to welcome you wholeheartedly. Never be sorry for your existence. You're all beautiful. I'm grateful to have an opportunity to say this to everyone. And then Padayon. Padayon is, I don't know what
Continue.
Padayon.
Continue. So go
Continue
on.
or
Move
continue on.
forward. Go
Move forward.
forward. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Humayo.
Solo. Very beautiful.
Taray.
Thank you for that.
O, Nico, in Bisaya
So
naman
Camp
daw.
Avenue Studios,
Ay,
kung
koy
kailangan niyo po ng cover,
koy!
nandito si Mike.
Yes. Oo.
Oh my God!
Ipasub na to.
Koy koy! Again,
Oo.
much love and rest well.
Mhm.
Yan.
Yes.
So I think
Yes.
it's very nice. And Camp Avenue Studios, I think I said this before. Camp Avenue Studios, I would really like to commend you for getting people who really know what it's like, or who, I mean, they have an idea, or they care. That's it. They
Mhm.
care about the
Mhm.
community. They care about proper
Mhm.
representation, and they care
Yes.
about really being truthful to the role, diba? And
Mhm.
to their character. So thank you. You have a huge pool of talent with you guys, and I'm
Mhm.
happy that they are also advocates. So thank you for bringing them together and for bringing on the series. Yeah.
Yes.
Anything
Wait,
else to
siguro,
Oh,
say?
ano?
siguro Mikey, ano lang, parang just to add siguro, parang ako, I'm really particular when it comes to acting talaga. And this is going to be like constructive. You can hate me all you want. Okay?
Go ahead.
But it's like
Yeah.
constructive feedback because I'm this kind of person who believes in acting. You can have a good material, good writing. I mean, we see that. It's crisp, right? We see that in Camp Avenues. We see that in the influencers. The way they deliver the lines, the dialogue, even the story, no? Siguro sa acting, parang I just need to I wish that the cast would loosen up a little bit lang siguro. I understand that it's the first episode and probably parang you guys seem to be anticipatory a little bit, right? There are may mga scenes na medyo awkward ng konti, okay? But it's not bad. The fact that I'm giving this feedback means that I really care for the series. And
Yeah.
you don't really have to change totally because this is just my insight. This is just my perspective. But to me, who stood out in the cast was actually Cholo as Ram Agoncillo. I felt that he was really natural in his delivery. Yung mga gestures here and there, mga facial expressions, parang I would like to see more of that siguro sa ibang cast. Parang I just felt na
Mhm.
medyo na, may mga awkward scenes lang talaga. Like for example, kasi when we talk about acting, we're talking about reactions, right? There's like
Mhm.
in appropriate or parang sufficient reacting to certain situations, but there can also be under reactions na parang
Yes.
underwhelming yung acting, na parang totoo ba, parang hindi natin nararamdaman yung response or yung reaction to a certain situation. There can also be overreaction, right? Na parang hala talaga ba, kailangan mo ba talagang sumigaw ng ganyan? Kailangan mo ba talagang i-modulate yung boses mo ng ganun kalakas, di ba? So yun lang, parang something that the cast can probably look into. Acting is really something very important. But kudos to Cholo as Rama Goncillo for really
Yeah.
standing up. To me, he really stood out here. I felt that he was more of the natural actor in the process. Yon.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think one of the scenes
Yes.
that really incorporates that or encapsulates that is the
Yeah.
coming out scene when he was typing.
Mm-hmm.
I was going through it. I was going through it with him.
Yes, yes.
So I
Yes.
really
Yeah.
appreciated that. Yep.
Mhm.
Tapos you tied it up with the end scene na sunset. Parang that tied it with a good ribbon. Parang okay. That's a good end.
Yes, and by
Yeah.
the way,
Yeah.
kudos. Or we just want to note homage to Together the
It,
series with the Adidas
yes.
shirt and the
Tapos,
high print,
Yeah.
high print on the back. Yes,
it's an
Yes.
homage to their first GL2 Chasing Sunsets. Hence, it was done in the sunset.
yes.
Yes. Ay,
Wasn't
yung
that
pala yung
Tara and Jeje? They're the ones from Chasing Sunsets, right?
mukha.
I think
Yeah,
Not,
I
so.
think
not
so.
so
Yeah.
The
sure.
one, the half sister. Yeah.
Yes, that's why it's like passing on the torch to the next group. So that's fun.
Yeah. Oh, symbolism. Nice.
Mm.
Okay.
Right, right,
Very,
right,
very
right.
interesting.
Well,
Yeah.
pero ito nga, like on a personal note naman, like on a personal level, I just feel like Camp Avenue's studios is giving us the same feel as that of Chasing Sunsets. Eh. But I feel like Chasing
Mhm.
Sunsets is really cautioning me onto something for me to reflect on something. Gets? Parang ko
Mm-hmm,
ba
mm-hmm.
explain? Parang while
Yes.
watching Chasing Sunsets kasi, parang it made me feel like I was being put on a cushion for me to relax, to take time to reflect and to think of a lot of things, right? Ganun din yung naramdaman ko sa first episode ng The Influencers. I felt that I was cautioned onto something for me to think things through. With the shots, with the cinematography, with music, right? I felt like nasa dagat pa at lahat, diba? It's a good time to really
Yes.
reflect on something. I don't know if this is the intention of the production or direct rents, no, but I think that it's time for us to reflect on these things. Eh. That's why we're discussing these things. We don't have to rush through all these issues. We don't have to rush understanding the concept of bottom shaming, the concept of cancel
Mhm.
culture. We just have to take time and sit and be cushioned and reflect on these things. Kasi 'di ba ang
Yeah.
tao hindi mo you can't force people to think a certain way. You can't really
Right.
force up concepts down somebody's throat, right? You have to
Right.
reflect and take time, get a feel of it. I mean, are you up for
Yeah.
it? Are you for it? Are you not? Do you have qualms? Do you have reservations? And I think that's what the influencers is really doing. No, parang it's for us to really
Yeah.
take time and be cautioned and be put on a in a place wherein we can think and reflect and feel. No, and then by then
Yeah.
we can move forward, right? I think I did mention this. I think it is isa to sa questions natin in our previous session. What makes an influencer an influencer? And ang sagot ko naman is to
Yes.
tap into the emotions of people. You cannot force people with concepts. You can't force them to think, hey, you have to think and memorize these concepts. You have to say no to cancel culture. Hindi pwedeng ganun. Dapat intindin mo. We have to understand where they are all coming from an emotional
Mhm.
standpoint, understand what they're going through, right? And then you empathize. You know, you get
Yeah.
parang let them get the feel of these issues and let them take time to really weigh in on these issues. I think that's what Camp Avenues is really doing. Yep.
Yeah, and they're
Right.
using one good medium as well because it's in this time of age. They're showing us what it looks like when they get
Yes.
canceled, especially those who don't know what it feels like to get canceled. So you're seeing
Right.
that through Ram's perspective as well.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. 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 Yes.
And just like you mentioned, Nico, I think stories are very powerful
Mm-hmm.
in allowing people to be able to see into the lives of others and to be able to better understand. Because yun nga I mean, if you just explain it to them, concepts. I
Yeah.
mean, concepts are all good and such, but unless they are translated into something relatable, such as a
Right.
story, then
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't really have that much of an impact. So that's why
Yes.
it's important that we are telling these stories now. And going back a little bit to what you said about bottom shaming and such,
Mm-mm.
yun nga parang the reason why there is such a thing as bottom shaming is because there's still a lot of the community that are still ascribing to the heteronormative
Mm.
way or to the heteronormative concept of
True.
Yes.
male, female, top,
Mm-hmm.
bottom, etc. Right? Whereas it can just be like I don't know. I don't know if there's another term for it, but it's really just. I mean, it's just really just a role, diba? I mean, it
Yeah.
doesn't really define who you are as a person. But then
True.
I think there is still that stigma that if you are a bottom, you're somehow the weaker one, or that you are the more
Yeah.
submissive one,
I
or that
agree.
you are the femme. Not necessarily.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's all parang it's all tied up to also like labeling people as or with microaggressions, for example, like parang
Mm-mm.
talaga bakla ka, but you're very masculine, parang you move as if you're a straight person. Oh, and you're the bottom. Why
Yeah.
are you so manly? You're the bottom. And or my god, you're so flamboyant, you're the
Bakit
top,
bakit ka
that
pangit,
kinds
'di
of
ba? Charot. Sagutin natin, bakit ka pangit, 'di ba?
bakit ka
Dami mo
bobo, bakit ka, di ba?
What the bobo
right?
at pangit. Charot lang, joke lang. Joke lang talaga.
But anyway, I mean, that's the thing, right? I mean, I think a lot of us, and I admit that sometimes I still also have to stretch my mind and open my mind a little bit more, but because
Yes.
these concepts or these things are so ingrained in us that it
Mm.
becomes second nature, and we don't consciously think about it, but it's in our subconscious, di ba? So,
Yes.
tayo mismo parang, ay, ano ba yan? Parang, talaga, top siya. Mas malambot pa sa cotton candy, yung mga ganong bagay, di ba?
Yes.
But then, it's not
So,
true. It's not necessarily true. Because you can be anything in the bedroom and then totally opposite when you are presenting yourself to other people. I mean,
Soji.
that's the entire concept of soji. Yes. I mean, who you are inside and how you express yourself and the manner that you walk or the manner that you dress up in or even how you say or speak, it's all so different. I mean, there's no
Yes.
one single mold for everyone. So this is really why, and we've talked about it as well, educate, not hate, diba? Parang we need to
Yeah.
educate our brothers and sisters and members
Our
of the
Yes.
brethren.
LGBTQIA community so that
Our
we can
brethren.
start accepting one another, be kinder to one another, diba? And that can translate to other people when we start talking to the heads, diba? Parang, I remember nga, diba, parang nung mga bago-bago pa, parang people would ask me, so sino sa inyo yung babae? Sino sa inyo yung... Huh? Um, we both have
Diba?
we both have dicks,
Yeah.
so we're both the guy.
Pero
Like,
ano, di ba like paano daw, magandang analogy daw for that is that whenever you eat, right, we make use
mhm.
of a spoon and a fork, right? And
Yes.
I don't know how this is explained, but sabi ko parang may nagsabi, I just read it somewhere na parang if somebody asks you, sino ang fem, sino ang bottom, sino ang top, sabihin mo na parang, well, we are like a dim sum meal, parang
We're
chopsticks,
chopsticks.
we're chopsticks, right? We're
Yeah.
not like a spoon and a fork. 'Di ba? So parang pareho
Mm,
lang kami. I mean, we're egalitarian. Doesn't really have to
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
be
Mm.
femme or like masculine or anything.
Or if you
Yeah.
want to be a bitch about
Yeah.
it, you can say, I don't see how that matters to you unless you plan on coming to the bedroom with us.
Yeah.
Like,
So
why
yung
is it none of your business?
yung
Like,
mangyayari na
Yeah.
yung way of eating
Ganda
mo na.
ka. Ganon.
ganda ka,
Yeah. Like,
sasali ka.
tell me, how is that your concern? It's
Tell
not.
Yes.
me, how is that your concern?
Yes. You
Am I
got it there.
any less of a professional? Sure.
Lakas makalaki siya ni Mark doon.
Lucky.
You got it
Tell
there.
me how that's it. Tell
Yeah.
me how.
I got me some. We got.
My God, it's 2020. We're jumping into 2021, guys. Come
Yes.
on.
Ano, this is so 2006 according to Pietro.
Yeah.
So true.
Yeah, very, very important. So
Yeah.
that's why it's very, very important to continue these conversations.
Right.
And the way that this first episode went, I'm very, very hopeful for the other episodes
Yes.
that hopefully it can bring to the fore other
Mhm.
issues that we are experiencing as a community. And hopefully it gets more conversations going, especially within the community. Because if
Yeah.
we can't explain it to each other, how are we going to explain it to other people? Right? I mean, if you don't
Yeah.
accept each other, how can we accept?
Uy, ito
Yeah,
talaga.
I do have a question for you guys. Kasi parang,
Yan. I like
I'll
question.
strip it down to the lowest of the forms.
Yeah.
It has to do with bottom shaming then, pero ito lang, simple question lang. Remove
Mhm.
everything you know about it. Ito lang, which weighs more, give or take? Is there or are they equal?
Oh.
In what way? My mind is going through some
Cheers.
things right now. I just want to be clear
I
if
think
I
in a
understood the
general
question
sense.
correctly.
I think in a general sense.
In a general sense, like, which weighs more? Is the one who's receiving the gift or giving the gift? Or yung mga ganon? In a very
Yeah,
simplest
contextual
way.
na siya, actually.
Mm. First and foremost, it's a gift if it's clean and washed. If it's not, it's garbage.
Mm.
I cannot.
Ang
I cannot.
straightforward doon. Straightforward
Yeah.
ang influencer. So straightforward din tayo dapat sumagot. Diba? Huwag na
Yes.
pag-good pa.
Okay. Straightforward ba? Hindi, sige, ano,
For
ano ba?
kasi you
If in
mentioned
the,
gift
if in,
eh.
Yeah.
Because if I'm the one buying a gift, for example, there is more effort on my part, definitely, because I have to think
Mm,
about what the person
Mm.
likes, what the person is, or who the person
mm,
is, diba? And whether or not it might be practical for them. Diba? So there's a lot of effort that goes into buying or purchasing or choosing a gift. But then for the person who receives it, they just receive it. So the effort will
mm.
be on that. So it's very contextual. And
Oo.
just like
How
Mark
about love
said,
na lang?
it's in the
In terms of love,
bedroom.
giving love and receiving love.
Oo.
I
Like,
think the giving is harder as well.
Mhm.
Because there is an action involved. There is effort involved. But for the one receiving it, it can be just as you sitting there and then, okay, thanks. And not doing anything about it, right? That's why there's unrequited love because there's
Mhm.
the giver, but the receiver doesn't necessarily want to receive it or
Yeah.
isn't even aware that he needs to receive or she needs to receive the love. So there might be other contexts, but those are
yeah.
the top of mind for me right now.
I agree with Mikey. Yeah.
Pero 'di ba
Mm.
there's a lot of things going on kasi if you're gonna go to the receiver mentality, it's like
Mhm.
there's a lot of things going in their mind, especially if there's social norms into their
Mm.
brains. Like if I
Yeah,
receive this gift, will I give a wrong signal? If I don't receive this gift, what signal will I give?
yeah.
Mm.
And
So
I
if
guess
uh,
mm,
so parang mga
I guess
ganun.
in the concept of sex, the receiver has a harder role.
Mm.
Number
Mm.
one, the preparation that goes into it, diba?
Oo, Diyos ko.
Sometimes, ano eh,
Fasting. Jokes.
yeah, fasting. It's not even a couple of hours.
That's
It's
true.
like four
Oh,
hours, or sometimes I've heard sometimes that they don't eat the night before. Like seriously?
dudush ka
So
pa
I mean,
mag
magdudush ka pa, you clean yourself up, right? And,
Oh.
and that
Yeah.
and and when you receive, you don't necessarily control the person who is thrusting and giving
Yeah.
you the no, di ba? Giving it to you.
The gift.
So the gift.
Mm. The gift.
Which is
So
hopefully
it's which
wrapped
hopefully
nicely.
not
Yes.
yes,
Like
hopefully
clean.
wrapped. No tears or anything like of the sort, di ba? So yun nga, di
Yes.
ba? So the receiver has a bigger, has a
Role.
tougher job,
Okay.
has a tougher job
Yes.
Okay. Yun na lang.
than the
Tougher
giver,
job.
than the giver, right?
Yeah.
Because that part is very very sensitive. It can get torn. It can bleed. So I mean, at that aspect, then the receiver has more to give.
Gusto ko
May
yung use
aftermath pa yun.
Yeah,
Oo.
true.
So
May
parang
Hindi
kaya
pwedeng matapos lang.
kaya that's
Prepare
why
ka
I'm
pa.
that's why I'm
more.
asking
Kaya
you guys din kasi it's like you're saying na why are we putting it all into one box or in one context? If in the
right.
various contexts it differs.
Exactly.
So why stick to
Right.
one? Why put it into one context? And
Right.
that's what we're doing with
Right.
bottom shaming. We're just putting it into just one singular
true.
context.
I
Right.
agree. I
But I
agree.
have a lot of respect,
Yes, we
especially for
do.
bottoms, because they
Mm.
do a lot of the work.
Thank you.
They do
Thank
a
you,
lot of
Mikey.
the work. I mean, tops, you just have to sit there, and bottoms, you
Ah,
ride your dick, and
sabot.
you just come, and then that's it, right? But
Yeah.
then the bottom, they do more,
Wait,
right?
alas 10 pa lang mga mama.
Uh-oh.
I'm
And
sorry.
Cam Abins is taking
Is there
notes.
are there any sorry, are there any minors? I'm so sorry. Talk to your mom or your
Okay
dad
lang
about it.
yan.
Talk to a friend.
We have to
I'm sure.
educate them, 'di ba?
Diba? You know?
Oo.
So
But
yeah.
but I have a question. Like I think we don't really have to label ourselves now, ha. I'm not saying that.
Yes.
I'll just share my own experience. So first boyfriend ko, ex, parang I didn't really understand ano tong bottom na to. All I know is I'm just loud and flamboyant and that's it, right? Pero when we did it together for the first time, it was weird kasi may rigodo na nangyayari. Hindi ko maintindihan na parang because he was obviously top. And then I'm like, okay, so what am I? 'Di ba? So may mga ganong instances but 'di ba parang you get pressured to be that kind of person, right? And then parang I just subscribe to that position, right? Or to that this position that I'll be this. But in the end, I felt like I'm not really that person. Gets mo?
Mhm.
Parang ang hirap kasi tamang point din ni Mikey kanina na parang pag bottom ka, fem ka, you're weaker. Eh paano ako? Ang lakas ng personality ko, 'di ba? And I tend to be so direct.
Magbubuhat yan. Kaya kang jombagin yan. Yan.
'Di ba? So parang ako parang do I really have to subscribe myself into that? Ngayon, I feel comfortable. May mga terms na kasing ginagamit eh like sides, mga ganun, 'di ba?
Yeah. And you're
Ah,
also taking out the others like the aromantics,
right.
sexuals.
Exactly.
So, paano sila? They're not in the top bottom tier because they don't believe we adhere to that.
Right,
Yep.
right. So yun lang, parang I think this is what Camp Avenue Studios is doing, no? Parang I think Influencers the series is for us to really talk about these things, and we really need to have an answer right now, eh. We just have to place it out there and just go with the flow, get a feed of it, and not
Mhm.
impose anything to
Yeah.
people. And bottom ka, bottom ka, fem ka, ganyan talaga, o maganda ka ba, ganun. Di ba? So
Right.
yun lang. Yes.
Yeah. So, we go back to the Soji again. Who you
Yes.
sleep in, who you sleep with could be different from who you sleep as, and what you wear when you sleep.
When you
Right.
Right.
sleep. Yes.
And again, ano eh, parang, ang galing nga eh, kasi parang yung theme for this week is safe spaces.
Yeah.
Oh
Di ba?
yes.
Like for
Oh
example,
yes.
for GSP, di ba? And then for influencers as well. So
Tamang-tama,
it's
no?
tamang-tama, di ba? We are
Lahat
Yeah.
going to talk
actually.
about
Tapos
safe
if we go to
spaces.
the next gym, then it's the contrast of the safe space because someone's
Yeah.
invading that space. And
Hmm, yeah.
he got the safe space from gym, pero it was
True.
an external factors coming in. Ang saya.
We, we, we,
Right.
we have to invite Camp Avenue Studios and everybody, and everyone else watching. This is going
Yeah.
to be tomorrow at 9 p.m. It's our
Mhm.
last speak room conversation. We're going to be talking about safe spaces, right? We have a guest. His name is Miko Tamura. He'll be talking about Map Bex. It's this initiative where you actually see mga LGBT safe spaces in Metro Manila, at least for now. So
Yeah.
they get to like plot or spot mga areas wherein we can thrive, we're okay, right? So
Yeah.
it's something that we'll find out tomorrow. And then he'll also share something about safe spaces. How can we make these safe spaces safe for the LGBT community?
Yeah.
Yes.
So sabi nga
Yep.
ni Cholo, 'di ba? Parang kung lalabas kayo, nandito kami, 'di ba? So we are trying to create that safe space for you as well. So I'm
Yes.
hoping to pick up some things there in that session so that I can be
Yes.
educated.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yeah. And we're going to be inviting a few parang or people too who would speak about what they've tried to do with creating a safe space at home and maybe into their community.
Mhm.
So,
Right, right, right.
sabi nga ni P, last na talaga. Can't be anything na semicolon na lang.
Yeah.
Uy, pwede naman. The only reason why we're saying it's the last because we planned it to be a trio or a
Mhm.
triage or a trio.
Yeah.
Um,
Yes.
because we wanted to do a Soji themed sort of like a series.
Mhm.
So, of course, there might be another speak room. It may be on another topic. We'll see. We'll see. It depends
We'll
on
see.
what needs to be talked about
Malay
next.
natin, after Camp
Yeah.
Avenue series, Leon could talk about mental
I
health.
mean,
Let's
we're
see.
flexible.
Let's
We're
see.
Uh,
flexible,
We're
but
flexible.
or
Camp Avenue Studios, if you want, we're
Pero
here.
speak room is not just about the LGBT, ha. We can talk about
Yes.
mental health. We can talk about women.
Yeah,
We can talk about social issues, right?
right.
And Camp Avenue Studios, it's the call to action, eh. So we're not do brouhaha. P Squad is
Yeah,
not just comment and just give insights or feedback.
correct.
We're here to really drive social change, diba?
I
To
think
mobilize people.
in a
Yeah.
way, we answered the call without knowing that there was a call
Yes.
Yeah.
because we
Mm.
started off for the
True.
benefit of everyone. We started off as really only our goal was really to review Boys Love series, right? And we
True.
started with the Thai series. But
Right.
then, Game Boys came in and then other BLs came in, etc.,
Mm.
etc. Throughout the course of our sessions and our discussions, we
Mm-hmm.
realized that we were now starting to talk more about the issues and the challenges and from a
Mm-hmm.
societal and social political point of view. So that's
Yes.
why we changed our name from Brouhaha BL Squad to Brouhaha B Squad because
Yeah.
we weren't limiting ourselves to just BLs anymore. So
Yep.
there have been reviews of other series, and now we're not just talking about the BL world per se, but also about LGBTQIA in general.
Yes.
So I think that is our action. Is that using
Yes.
this platform not just to talk about the BLs that we love, or not just for entertainment purposes, but also to talk about the issues that are, can I say, ravaging
Right.
Yeah.
the
Ah.
BL community. So, and
Yeah.
hopefully through our discussions, through our speak room sessions, we are able to sort of like create a space wherein we can talk about these things. We provide our perspectives, you guys provide your own perspectives, and hopefully, well, whether it's 10 people, whether it's 100 people, um, what we want really is to keep that conversation going
Yep.
Mhm.
so that we can all learn
Yes.
together, we can all grow together, and we can all be better together as a BL community.
Yeah, and we also moved on by adding advocacies and initiatives too, like we supported, or we're still supporting, Buy a Plant, Build a Home for
Mhm.
those who are
Yes,
affected by the typhoon, and
we have a
Ulysses and Rolly
poster.
for Catanduanes and Virac. So I know the rec Renz is from Virac too, so I hope we could
Yes.
seek from help for that initiative. It's Buy a Plant, Build a Home.
Oh, there in
There
the
you
running
go.
board. Yes.
And to go on a
So
bigger spectrum, we also have the hashtag BL Love Loves BL Loves Back, or the BL community, wherein even the influencers themselves are part of it. So go
yes,
to the website that to that website and vote for or buy a ticket for Cholo and Leon. You'd find them there.
yes, 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 yes. Go ahead and go and donate, and
Yes,
every little bit counts, right? So
yes.
we do what we can. Hi, I'm good.
Uh,
Are you guys? Are you
na-curious,
good?
na-curious lang ako kung sino binabato ni Maki doon.
Oh, it's
I
ano,
see.
it's there. It's Grizzly. Grizzly? Is it Grizzly or I think it's Grizzly Bear from the
Kita pala. Oh my God.
kanino
Nakita nila, binato
ba?
kita.
Sino binabato mo? Sinong
Yes.
binabato
Sino?
mo?
Oh, that's right,
Next.
Mouse. Keep the conversation going and
Yeah.
keep
Yeah.
it growing
Growing.
Yes.
and hopefully
Glowing.
blown. Grow. Oh my god. Oh my god. Yes, 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 yes. Thank you so much for
Yes.
being with us, everyone. Any final thoughts,
I just
guys?
want to I just want to piggyback on what Miles recently said.
Yeah.
To keep the conversation growing. Kasi our conversation now may not be our conversation tomorrow. So in the
Yes.
Mhm.
course of the time, between the time that we evolve into a more grown, hopefully grown and developed
Yeah.
perspective, no, along the way and along the lines of touching these people, touching the lives of these people. Hopefully, we imparted some knowledge. Hopefully, we imparted some, like, the calls to action, the responsibility. We passed the baton to other people, not only for we're not saying naman na we are all preachy and we're all the high form of human beings. No, we just want to share what we think, what we know, and what we experience, so that hopefully you guys pay it forward to also share your own stories, share your own knowledge, so you can touch at least one life, so that it keeps the ball rolling and the conversation growing, just like what Miles said.
Yes. I'm getting gloves in
Yeah.
my hands. Anti coordination. Yes. Thank you, guys.
But are
Lance?
we
Thank
are we
you. Oh,
wa- are we
sorry.
watching?
One
Yeah,
last. So,
go.
ang dami ko sinabi. One
Go
last na.
lang.
I just want to
Go lang.
appreciate then Camp Avenue Studios for doing the first episode of Hashtag Influencers, the series. Now, kasi they named it Damn Space. Kasi
Yeah.
while we are doing this brouhaha of talking about safe spaces, talking about how each character took his or her own space in the series, no, at least for this episode, it shows lang na parang when you take up space, you also
Mhm.
make an influence. You're also influencing to other
True.
people through their
True.
own spaces, and through these parang bump car of spaces. Doon nagkakaroon ng conversation. Doon nagkakaroon ng conflict. at doon din nagkakaroon ng meaningful relationships, doon nagsa-start ang mga trade ng mga usapan, nandun doon nagsisimula ang bagong simula ng pagkakakilanlan ng mga bagong experiences, not only for yourself but also for other people, and hopefully as a grown relationship for the two of you, the three of you, the four, the five, or how many, as long as you keep the conversation growing and growing and growing, so that when you take up space, it's no longer perceived in the notion that when you take up space, you're making the other person perceive less space. It's just that these parang banggaan ng mga spaces would make it somehow a communal space na lahat tayo
Mm.
confident, lahat tayo responsible, lahat tayo open and willing to be in that same space. So
Yeah.
ayan, again, which leads to the question, are we watching the next episode?
Yes, we are.
Oo naman.
Yes, we
I
are.
am.
Yes.
Oh, and just to piggyback off of what you said, Mark, di ba? Parang, di ba yung definition of a thing is something that occupies weight and occupies space or something like that. I forget. But
Matter, mama, matter.
matter, yeah. Hindi ako magaling sa
Matter.
science. Language is but anyways, there are perhaps individuals. Let's not just be matter. Let's not just take up space.
Mm.
Let's use our words, our talents, our spirit, our efforts to
Right.
create a bigger, better, wider, more open, more inclusive, more compassionate, more loving space. Diba? Because it's not enough to just be matter,
I
but
agree.
Mhm.
we should make our lives matter
Matter.
Yeah, gets.
by
Yeah.
helping other people.
Right.
So
Yes.
I hope you got that, guys.
Yeah.
But
In short,
Yes,
in
we
summary,
do,
it's
we
like
do.
in summary, that's like we matter, and we should take up space, but we should matter in the space that we live in.
that's right.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you for
Usapang
Yeah,
matter
educate,
phrasing
not
that.
hate, and then the other one would be
and
fight
be
with
a matter.
kindness and be a matter in this
Yeah.
big
Kindness. Be a
space.
kindness warrior. Char.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's it for
Yeah.
me. Thank you, guys. Thank
Ako yun.
you.
Yes.
Are you good?
Okay.
Last
Yes.
words. Yes.
Yeah, last words
Okay
lang.
na.
Parang my
Ay,
only
sorry.
last word would be a little visual lang direct. Can you tone down the
Mm.
makeup lang ni Leon, please?
Oo.
Kasi gwapo na siya.
Oh,
Patone
the
down ng konti.
foundation.
Ayan.
Kasi we've been screaming, Happy
Yeah.
Foundation Day! So, patone lang ng konti. Thank you. Pero his acting
In the
was good.
lighting as
It's
well.
just that medyo kita lang
Actually,
yung lines
yeah.
dito. Kita yung separation
Even
from the neck
very
to the...
pogi, he doesn't need a lot of makeup.
Yeah, doesn't need a
Yes.
lot of makeup.
Wait, pero alam nyo, parang, di ba I said Cholo stood out in terms of acting? But parang sa akin, si Leon talaga was really charming in this
Oh.
episode. Ako to ha, ako to.
Yung
And Leon was comical talaga.
Oh my God.
Ay, mas appealing sa akin yung ganun eh. I don't know, baka ano lang, yung facial expression, yung mga mata din niya.
Since you
ganyan.
mentioned that, I think
Yeah.
that in terms of banter, very comfortable si Leon at saka Romeo.
Romeo.
Yeah. And then si Romeo at saka si Cholo. Kasi 'di ba, parang when Leon and Romeo were in the dining area, 'di ba? Parang ano ba, ang laki-laki ng mata mo tapos ikaw naman eh, 'di ba? Parang ka-height, kulang ka sa height. So parang that was very comfortable. And then also when Romeo was talking to Cholo on the phone, yung pagmura pa, parang sabi ko, wow, ang lutong ha. Parang, putang ina ka. So, yeah, I think they were very comfortable there. So,
Yes.
Yeah, and
keep
you
that
could see
kind of mood or keep that kind of, what do you call that? Interaction.
Level of comfort. And
Ay,
Yeah.
yun yung gusto kong sabihin, di ba parang si Romeo, was like Cholo, the character, he was talking to Ram on the phone. And then parang makikita mo behind, nag-react si Migo sa likod. Parang I
Yeah.
think yun yung gusto kong makita more of Migo eh. Na parang, I must admit that there were like some awkward scenes na medyo anticipatory siya. Pero ang super charming niya dun sa eksena na yun, na parang I felt he was really natural. Yung sa party, nag-react siya dun with the spoon and fork, ganyan. Sabi ko, ay, cute.
Really excited for
Yeah.
the meetup because
Yes.
I think Derek Ren said at one point that um, the chemistry of the two is really off the charts. That at one point when they were doing sort of like a practice scene or
Yeah. Screen
whatever,
cast.
he actually had to step out and parang thank the heavens because he really was very
Talaga.
grateful the
Yes.
two leads had that kind of chemistry. And we can see it. Remember when we did our live?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
True. True.
Hello.
Yep.
Oh my God.
Diba?
It's so real. It's so real.
Pwede ka na nga mag-improv doon, Nico eh. Mag-improv
Yeah.
director ka doon.
Ayun pala, sa mga 11,000 na nanonood sa atin, no? I think that will become
Yes.
BBS's trademark, no? Pag may mga guesting or may papasok tayo dito, mag-screen test talaga, mag-i-improv tayo dito. Tignan natin kung may chemistry. Yes!
Why not? So,
Yeah.
you know what will happen, Sheet? The other love affair of Camp Avenue. Let's see you on Monday.
Yes! Yes.
So thank you again for being here, guys.
Thank you so much. Outro na ba tayo?
Yes.
Go.
All
So
right.
don't forget to follow, subscribe us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter. On our social, it's Brouhaha B Squad at Brouhaha B Squad. So thank you for watching. I'm Lance, above is Nico, Mikey, and Mackie. So as Chola had to say, come out and be proud.
Yes! Happy weekend, everybody!
Don't
Take a
forget
good
to
ride.
donate and share for the Typhoon victims. You can check the running
Yes.
board and our social media. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Camp Avenue Studios and staff.